Day on innovative experiences in social housing in Europe. We are in the framework of the International Social Housing Festival here in Barcelona, and we are in INCASÓL promoting this talk today on these innovative experiences on housing. And we are hosting here today three architects with lots of experience on developing social housing in Europe, I would say, also Barcelona specifically. We're with Fredéric Druot, Pere Joan Ravellat, and Cristian Vivas. Each of them is going to be providing us with a point of view regarding the challenges we're facing today in terms of sustainability and the promotion of social housing in the context of the provision of affordable housing, but also durable, sustainable. That's the challenge that we're posing them today. And the debate will go as follows. We will have 15 minutes each of the panelists to explain their approach towards the issue. And afterwards, we will move to a debate among the panel and also open to the floor, so we can have a more lively conversation. Since this is a very intimate setting today, we can have a more informal debate than a proper conference debate, if you feel so. Then what I will ask now is that, I'll go through a slightly background of each of the panelists. Fredéric Druot, it's an architect that's been working in France mainly, but not only, on issues of social housing, with major experience on the refurbishing of social housing that's existing, but is also being improved through the intervention of the existing stock, not demolishing, not promoting. It's the concept of adding instead of demolishing, introducing reutilization instead of subtraction of elements. The idea to use the existing stock in order to promote housing. He's been working with the studio of La Català del Sòl, and they have promoted major projects in Paris. I'm looking through my notes. Tour Bois Le Pret. I said it properly, or I said it wrongly, completely wrongly. TVP, much easier, yes. TVP in Paris. It's the development of a 100-unit building, using the opportunities the actual building built in the 60s provided to increase the space available, but also the opportunities to have a new structure in the units as well. And that project was developed, the concept of improving existing building without compromising the actual structure in Le Grand Parc de Bourbon with La Català del Sòl as well. This project has been awarded. It's a very famous initiative, and it's been implemented. Its success has been identified as a beacon for all developers of social housing, a way to approach the intervention on districts that are undergoing stress in terms of livability and opportunities in this sort of social housing quartiers. And this is the one of the references now, the project of Grand Parc de Bordeaux. And also we have as well Pere Joan Ravellat, who is architect here in Barcelona with a studio that's been working for the last 30, 40 years probably.
Maybe.
Years. And it's the amount of projects that he's been involved, it's impressive. It goes through interventions on heritage buildings as well, but not only social housing from a smaller scale, from larger scale projects that go from Ciutat Vella, center of Barcelona, to major riverfront project in Santa Coloma. And we're proud to say that he also is working with INCASÓL currently. He's developing two projects that are both under construction now. One in Rubí, 24 units in Marconi Street, and also one in Santa Coloma, which is a project that we're especially proud, being the development of a nearly zero plus building, which is a positive energy building, and it's a project that it's implementing a new strategy towards we would like to be building. And also we're accompanied by Cristian Vivas, who is a very young architect. not that much. No, in the sense that he won a project as young architect with INCASÓL in 2008, and he's been working. He worked and developed this project in La Mina and San Adrià de Besòs, one of the districts which is going a redevelopment in metropolitan area of Barcelona. He worked for INCASÓL during that time. He's been working lately in Barcelona metropolitan area with several projects, not just not with INCASÓL, but with the Institut Municipal d'Habitatge i Rehabilitació of Barcelona. He's developing, we're saying, 4 projects now in metro area. No more than 4 projects, sorry. and he has an extensive experience in these last years, and he's recently been awarded with one of the projects that INCASÓL is developing. Now it's going to be starting soon in Mollet del Vallès to develop 90 units of affordable housing in Mollet del Vallès. So now I'll move to this brief introductions, and I'll move to the floor to Fredéric Druot, so he can explain his. I'll close mine.
We are very proud because you make a difference between young architect and
not
hello.
Not so young. And not so young.
So ciao, we have to go. No. Okay. Thank you for the invitation. Naturally, this first image is I love this image because. He resumes the title, what and who is already there. And I love the image because it could be it can resume all the lecture of my what I think and what it could be interesting to do. Because we are inside, outside, we have trees, nature, we have old building, we have new building, we have stability, we have technology, and we have love. Okay, and it could resume what are the objectives of the architect and the urbanist when they have to work. I've pushed that. I work. You say I work very often on this question with Anne Lacaton and Jean-Philippe Bassal since '95, because we think that Anne and Jean-Philippe work not only about transformation. We work on this topic because in France there's an organization which sorry, we hit too much. I'm sorry. We have an organization, a public organization, is l'ANRU, Agence Nationale pour Rénovation Urbaine. She decided in 2004 to make a lot for the housing, but in the same time, they say that they can give money to the public owner if they demolish a lot. And we think that it is totally stupid because we need 2.4 million new dwelling. So when you need some dwelling, maybe it's not the good way to start with demolition, because if we need, it's not necessary to start. And we thought also that if you consider the question of social culture, the question of energy, the question of the quality of housing, the question of timing, the question of many things, it's possible to make to answer to the question of housing with if you consider very well and all we have, and it's for this reason that the title of the lecture is what and who is already there. Because if you don't pay attention of what we have, you can invent any plan. It's easy to invent many things. You are in an office, you design something, and you say, okay, it's better like that, like that, like that. But in reality, all the cities or all the world is made with a lot of material, and we have to consider all this material. And you can increase each piece of the part of the world differently, case by case, and by addition, transforming all the situation and give the best for this all kind of organization. Here we speak about the question of housing, social housing. In fact, we don't like so much the name social housing. We speak very generally about housing, how to live, just that. And after that, you have different case of statute for that. You pay for, if you have not money, maybe it's social, but the question is housing, how to live. So in the same time, with this objective, we say the part of the economy is very important for us. And very often Jean-Philippe say, okay, we have less, so we have to do more. It's like a strange strategy, but it's very efficient, because if you have too much money, you can, maybe the reflection is closed. So we say that. And we say that because we have the experience of the project of Tours-Bois-le-Prêtre. And on this project, we constate, but we know before to do it, we constate many things about the question of money, the question of the capacity of each immeuble to be increased and give the incredible quality of housing if you work, if you pay attention to people, and if you are really precise in your relation with the architecture existing. So we say just, it's very simple, never demolish, not a little bit, never. Because if you say a little bit, wait, you stop me. If you say a little bit, first, which part you have to demolish? This one, this one, this one, why? This one. And if you open this discussion, you can a little bit, but after that it could be where you stop. So okay, so never. It's very simple, and the reason why is because if you demolish, you can have this kind of project on the right, which is the Tours-Bois-le-Prêtre, which was like the image of on the left, but we just pay attention to people who live inside, increase each housing, and find possibility to new dwelling in the same tower. Save the cost of working, because we don't have a lot of money every time. Even we have money, but we have to pay attention to that, because with between the difference between demolition and rebuild and transformation, we pay less 62% of the price. It's a fact. Save the energy. We speak here about the energy, grey energy, that consider not only the energy of a building, chauffage, but also the demolition, the transport, the new building, many things. Save the cost of public facility, because when you demolish, maybe very often you have the good idea to make a new road, a new sewer, a new plantation, a new, a list very long of new, but we have that. So it's not necessary to change that, because it's not necessary to pay that. Reduce heating and maintenance load in each building. That it's more easy, it's more simple. In fact, everybody speak about the CO2 and the consumption, and when you work on the insulation, you can imagine normally every owner say insulation is just 20 centimeters of wool. I never live in 20 centimeters of wool, and maybe somebody like that, I don't know, but we prefer to give more space and put the money we spend in the space rather than in the wool for a better answer. Create new housing and service, and that is also very interesting because in this point we try to speak about not architecture, or not only architecture, but in the same time with the question of urban planning. And I show after that just a little study we do, not a little but shortly. Okay. So on the same territory, it's possible if we pay attention of exactly the situation as the capacity of extension of each territory. I speak about building and also sometimes with the area to find more dwelling on the same territory. And the idea is to give better house dwelling by extension, and in the same time find new dwelling on each territory if we need, because we need a lot of dwellings more. So after the project we have that you pass from here to here. I stop? No, okay, do. No, you sleep, so me too. So I have to find ID. We pass from that to that. What is very, I'm sorry, I have to go faster, but what is very interesting that sometimes the owner have to take decision. At the beginning, the tower was not like that with like a jail with a sun and seagull, but it was open at the beginning, and you have the mouvement social about about the protection, security, and all the answer of that is to close. And at the end, it's totally stupid because the people can go inside. Who live inside can go because you take resolutions totally stupid. So we just opened that. It was like that. It's not very easy to use. It's like that. There is nothing. And the dwelling are like that, and now they are like that. So I was better this morning, no, a little bit. Sorry. So you can read by yourself. We increase the question of area, but in the same time we increase the number of dwelling. The energy saving is very low. The access, okay, it's now 100%. But what is very interesting with this objective, the cost for one dwelling, we have the benefit of half the price we spend. In fact, the same another project, but for 530 dwellings more. It's the same objective, very different with the conception technically. The image looks the same, but it's very different. We just increase a lot of balcony and winter garden, and you can imagine that at the beginning there is a little window. We open the window and give 4 meters more to each people, and at the end they live in the extension of the dwelling. Like that. And this woman look at the old existing apartment because it turns the sofa. Okay, bon. And the same result. We spend near 50,000 euros for each dwelling, and in fact, if we demolish and rebuild, we spend 150 and 60. Okay. Bon. Very fast. About this experience of first Tourbois-le-Prêtre, we say, okay, in Paris, each time you try to find the possibility to find more dwelling. In Paris, they say, okay, We want that people stay in Paris for the poor, for the middle class, for everybody, but it's difficult. Okay, we say, okay, I pay all the study for that. I engage research on 1,048 existing situations, and we work on case by case on each situation. With the example of the Tour Bois-le-Pret, where we transform the existing building, and we find the possibility to increase the number of dwellings with 30 or 40, I don't remember exactly. And we look at all the situations in Paris, not all, but a lot, 1,048, and on each one, we look at the capacity of each one and say, okay, we have that, we can find that, we can increase that without demolition, without expropriation, without cutting trees. I'm too long, I'm sorry. And we know exactly how many people live inside. We spend 6 years for that. We know exactly all. We take the rule, regular rule. We take also subjective rule, because you have people inside, they have the benefit of view, we consider that. You have the benefits of car park, trees, many things like that. And at the end, we make fish for each situation, not for each, for a percentage of a situation. And if we make the addition of that, we have considered 35,000 dwellings, and you find the possibility to build on this area without moving any road, anything, 135,000 dwellings more. That means that if you look at the plan of Paris, that changes nothing. And you have increased, give a lot of quality for existing dwelling, and you find the possibility to increase the number of dwelling. And just another image, it's an area, the name is Place des Fêtes in Paris, and we work with that with a student on the capacity of increase each situation and transform each situation. For example, we take the roof, we take the building existing, we take all in the street, we take every kind of organization, existing organization, okay, and we say, okay, you can find place here. It could be office, it could be a shop, it could be housing, it could be garden, it could be jardin potager, ecological tomatoes on the roof. Bref, but if you adapt this idea of I pay attention of everything, you can repair. Okay, that is full. You can do that. It's a little project, but you can. It's nothing, and you can increase. You have the place to make another here. No. And it could be, I think, a good solution for the idea of urban planning. It's okay. Pay attention to everything, just and not decide to do in one time a square in the city which come from the moon. We don't know. Okay. So I teach you.
So now we move to Pere Joan Ravellat. Thank you for.
Sorry for my English.
You matched the time exactly 15 minutes.
I know.
Perfect time. So thank you.
My mother called.
Thank you very much. Now, Pere Joan, please.
So thank you very much for this opportunity to talk about social housing and these things that I think interest all of people are here. Also very honored to be with my colleagues in sharing opinions with Frederic and Cesar. And I'm going to talk about housing housing and city, in fact, I believe they are two faces of the same problem. You cannot design housing without thinking in the urban context and the place. And probably you cannot think in city without attending their main and principal component, that is houses. So 80 or 90% of our cities are made by housing. So this housing and city dialogue, duality, brings me to briefly to talk about the scale and limit, public space, and outdoor contact. In fact, those were three keywords or three dialogues that a lot of years we've been working with this idea. Projects has to be rooted in the context. They have to know where they are. The empty space is as much as important as the filled one. So you cannot design housing without thinking in public space. This is a space that relates, that joins, that makes the contact between people, and also the contact with nature. The contact with nature, the outside relationship. But actually, maybe 5, 6, I don't know, 7 years ago, to these three main concepts, we also started to add or to think, maybe you can call this innovation, new things, another few things that we don't forget these main keywords, but also mix it with adaptive reuse. We have to think in how to readapt things, and circular economy, obviously saving energy, shared space, this idea of how people can make new programs, sharing a space, sense of community. Probably our buildings need every time more this idea of belonging to somewhere, urban and also community. Sense of community and memory, time. The time is always can be a tool. The time as something that runs and can we relate to the past, to the future. Things that we build, obviously, sometimes don't start at that moment, but come from before, and they will continue to the future. So time and architecture are related in this sense. Talking about scale, those also briefly, these three paintings from Vermeer that allows me to talk you that in the first, Vermeer was always living in Delft. In the first picture, first painting, you see the city. You see that the subjects, the sky, the river, the skyline, the roofs. Also there are houses, but what is really underlined is this idea of city, the main subjects. In the second, probably this house is already exists in this painting, but the distance you look at is different. So you can see really the material, the brick, the window, people, the women just staying at threshold, children playing under the bench. You can see two houses near the passage. So really when you get close, you see a lot of things that were already there, but it's just because of the distance that you can see this. And also, again, inside the same house, but then you see the light, the window, the furniture, the men, the clothes, the texture. So both things, all the three things, these three scales, are always related in our design, in our point of view. And also, actually, I also like to say the same thing with these paintings of Van Gogh. No? The idea of forest, tree, and leaf remains in some way close to this idea of a scale. The forest, no? The continuity, the ensemble, the whole, or the tree, the unity, the form, and even the leaf. So both things relate and can understand in each case how the light, the shape, and they are related one to each other. In this succession of things, I want to talk about three projects. The first in Ciutat Vella in Barcelona, those dwellings at Robador Street, in a very small building. You know, Ciutat Vella is very typical from Barcelona. Imagine those inner blocks, this shape. Can you imagine this long shape? How important is light, and how important is sun in these conditions with great depth, building very with a lot of deep, and then this contact, a final contact with the space. In this case, we work with these two buildings to just next to other buildings. In fact, one was very small, the 27th, and one was kind of making this L shape. And from both buildings, we make them just one, suppressing one of the cores, the gray one, the smaller one, and then becoming just one building that, and with a more big courtyard that open and really make this possible, this contact with sun, light, and a little bit more spacious. In this thing, this is the existing section, how close, how small was this, and then how the opening of this central space allowed this contact with the sky. Or this is the space, the inner space I just was telling you about, how amazing is, how alive is this, how can you believe in Barcelona this existing just at the other side of the street? Inside of the buildings, we also like to live, to understand construction. It's very complex, the construction of those buildings, 200, 300 years. And every small living room had a piece of a stone. So in fact, in every floor is different. So we thought it was nice that people can invite each other to see how is my stone in my floor, different. And also this contact, apartments of 40 square meters, 45, 50, very small apartments. And the entrance. You see how beautiful it is, how interesting, more than beautiful, because they also had different levels. They had different levels for the floors. That really, it's something difficult how to join these things. In fact, the plan, I didn't tell you, but you can see, this small stair, that was what was a difficulty at the end was the most demanded apartment was this one that has a kind of mezzanine, so you can go up and then find a kind of room, upper room different. No? So and the lobby, this lobby of the entrance, that again had this kind of space for bicycles, the stone wall that we can leave as a kind of also showing the way of construction, or again the lobby and this space that brings you to the existing stair. The stair is the other space I wanna talk to you about. The stair also. The stairs are very important. People meet at the stair. They go you up. We kept the stair. We put an elevator just in front of this, and then we try to explain, to try to keep all this experience of going up, kind of sequence, itinerary, and then the existing brick, some of the windows at the stair, all this space that really relates you to the past, to the memory, to the ways of construction. We thought that was kind of useful for the people who was going to live there. The second project talks about new programs, elderly housing in Quatre Camins. Just in the north part of Barcelona, not very frequent to build social housing in this part of Barcelona. In this plan, we try to relate how a lot of religious colleges, religious pieces. So we tried also the housing has the scale not of a very low piece of housing, but this a little bit bigger, a little bit kind to talk, to dialogue to the buildings around. A piece that opens to the good orientation, that opens to the south, also that relates to the topography. Those places normally have this kind of slope, a different slope, and we try to get you'll see some of the open outdoor spaces related to the surrounding. In fact, all this piece here, these white spaces are gardens of the apartments touching the ground floor, and also the balcony, the door. How ceramic tiles get privacy, get enough privacy to be open, and also to get enough consistency of being in relation to the outside. And community spaces. This is for elderly houses, and we designed two spaces. One is this here, that is kind of social meeting, social space to meet. Another is the laundry. So this space and the laundry were kind of gathering places where people can meet, can talk easily. And here in the section, you see these spaces for gardens I was just talking before, and where the contact to the nature, again, sense of community, contact to the nature, spaces being the prolongation, the continuation of the inside through the outside of the apartment. Those pieces that relate to topography, people meet upstairs, and then the apartments in the ground floor have this plus extra contact. Everyone is different. People also in a space for laundry, kind of living, no? Those were some pictures that we come back 3 or 4 years after finishing the building, and then just to see how some things were working fine, others maybe were working not so fine. But in any case, and this is the apartment, and this is the balcony. The construction of the balcony with these ethics, this system of isolation outside, where just we tried here in the upper part of the image, this balcony where space for laundry, space for the aerothermic. This was a passive house system that was built something like 8 or 10 years before, so it was not so normal at that time, kind of trying to make something new in 10 teams. This is the entrance, again, trying to get some spaces, even in the door. How you enter the door is not only a door of 2 meters, 1 meter, but it's a space where really you can leave your plans, you can meet the neighbor, you can get some idea of that going from inside, from outside is something more than crossing a door. The balcony space, also again, people living in those spaces, and those strategies of thermal insulation, hermeticism, cold bring reduction, air circulation, those passive house system, and how all these the enclosure, the enclosure of the buildings, how some of the corridors were not so climatically treated, were kind of semi outside spaces, and the red ones were the really isolated spaces. Okay, again, the collective spaces, the pergolas, and how related interior of apartments with outside. And finally, those dwellings in Santa Coloma for INCASÓL, those spaces, again, the urban, it's a very interesting urban context. Very interesting because Santa Coloma is a peripheral city of Barcelona, where this is the neighborhood. People like to self-construct some pieces of the apartments, where really the outside experience is very powerful. They like to cover, to use. You see how people like and promote this living outside. So we tried not to do kind of very so well finished design building, but leaving those idea of ceramics, of self-construction, of using of the spaces outside, promoting a little bit of this idea of taking some of the image, of the experience of what's happening just around. And again, topography, the stair. I like this section because it explains going from the square to this patio. You see this patio that is the core. Again, this space, the limit between a scale of the city, a scale of the building, a scale of the apartment. You see here the community patio. You will understand maybe with the other section and some images. Apartments with big terraces. I think this is also nice. People like to be outside. Mainly after the COVID, we have the responsibility of not allowing how apartments without this contact. No? Big balconies, you can experience to be outside, you can have some animals, you can have some idea of living more intensively. And this is the patio just in the center. The topography allows to have this space for bikes just in the mezzanine. Those are those big, not so big, but let's just exterior spaces outside. But for a social housing, let me say that for social housing is It's not too bad. You know, you are professional. Okay, thank you, Frederic. Sont bons, oui, oui. And this is the patio. You'll see this idea of patio, kind of gallery, circulation, going around, community, sense of belonging to some place. Idea of belonging with the stair, with this corridor. And then is here are the bikes. This is the first floor, and those is the space connected to this. It's not small. It's really it's big. It's big. So the effort in social housing to get those kind of spaces really mean so people can meet, can talk. They can just. This is the actual state of the construction. And you see, no, this. I also in Ruby, Pere was talking about of the other project in Ruby. I like those spaces that make the transition between inside, from the passerelle, from the corridor to the inside. So you can make some distinction. You enter to a space, a previous space for plants, bikes, but it's not still, it's not climatic change, no? But it's something that belongs to you, but you can share easily with your neighbors. So these ideas, no? Those spaces where, here you see in the AXO or in the render, those spaces where plants, circulation and neighbors can really have the opportunity. This GrammaNet project is also doing cooperation with Sinikia, this European research project, trying to build a building plus, energy plus. So is not a nearly zero, but will have energy to share with the facilities and the market and other buildings just around our social housing. This is Sinikia, Sustainable Plus Energy Neighborhoods, and this is all the strategies of isolating and changing. Amazing. Now we are just at the roof, just finishing the construction. Amazing the views, because you'll never thought that this you see Montserrat just right there. This idea of being very, very, very in the middle of the city, and then just four floors higher, you can have this contact with the sky and the nature. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Pere Joan, and again,
See?
on time. So the challenge is for Cristian now to meet the clock. And
See.
Thanks.
Let's see if I can make it. Thanks. Not sure. Thanks for inviting me. I want to talk about our experience in the last years and we
Mention of balcony?
As big as is. I'll stand up. I'm going to talk about these 8 projects, and we're going to. They are divided into the top part of the image. These 4 projects and these 4 projects, we sense that they have a big difference. These 4 projects on the top have a lot to do with what you explained at the beginning, and is what we kind of call it like the more conventional kind of projects, which deal with program, with space, with social issues, with flexibility. And this over here are the recent projects, or selection of the recent projects that are that we kind of sense a change in like a paradigm of how housing is being done in Catalonia and in Balearic Islands, which we think has a lot to do with political reasons. And let's be honest, I mean, we have the new Bauhaus, we have the next generation, all these things at the end are arriving to our projects. And many things that we study in the university, things that we try to implement in this kind of project, that we never were able to do it because there was not the time, there was not the money or not the interest. We see right now that all these ideas of sustainability, materials, all about waste management, the life cycle, closing the cycle of the materials. This is in the agenda right now, and this is what social housing is demanding us as an office. So just to go like really quick, I'll explain the 4 projects at the same time, and it's what he was talking about. It's about different scales, no? It's about public, communal and private, or what we could also say the city, the community, and the home. And we think what is interesting in this project, or what we have been working, is mainly the transition between these different scales, between city and community, between community and home. So in this in-betweens, it's where we think it's interesting things. No? So here's an elderly apartment, similar to what Pere was explaining before. This is a co-housing project, and this is just this is in La Marina, and this is the project in Glorias, which is right now being built. No, city scale in this kind of projects, we uncompleted squares where the building has to separate to gain some autonomy. In this kind of project in La Marina, urbanistically, it was like a huge U which closed the square, so we decided to create like 3 different blocks to generate visuals, to generate permeability. And in Glorias, we generated like a public-private street which connects city with community spaces. What's interesting for us in these buildings is the public-private spaces. No? So all these corridors, understood as like elevated streets, what we were talking before in the, during lunch, about the Smithson's project of Robin Hood Gardens, understanding this as a place where you meet, where you socialize, where you can generate this community. Giving special importance in all our projects is the idea of an open stair, double heights, and generating these patios, these places, these rooftops with gardens and interior gardens, which can, at least we're hoping that generate social activity. And there's more images of this idea of the elevated street, which at the end is this community space, shared space between the neighbors. In some of our projects, when we're talking about elderly housing and co-housing, it's kind of easy to generate this community life because there are already like activities organized there. In the others, we are hoping that some things, similar things will happen. No? So just the other, like I was talking about the private, the community, and the public, the community, and the house itself. What we find interesting, and he was also talking about it, is this transition between the corridor and the entrance. Having these galleries, sometimes in between the house and the community space, sometimes the gallery is crossing the house to generate. So this is what we have been working like the last years. And of course, in this kind of projects, sustainability was an issue, but it was more like a checklist. It was, okay, we need to have solar panels, we need to have ventilation, good insulation, basically what the technical code defined, and that was what we had to do. But recently, this is not enough. I mean, all those things are also included in our next projects, but it's not enough. And so sustainability materials is one of the things. And what we sense also is that there's something really important, which is structure. The structure and the material. What materials do we use, and how structure, in some way, defines space? And so this idea of the ambivalence of the structure, which is, okay, it's the element that supports the whole building, but at the end it's also the element that defines the room. It's the element that, in some cases, generates the facade, and it's the element that, at the same time, regulates the temperature or regulates humidity. We're thinking about wood or earth or other kinds of materials. So this ambivalence, I think, is one of the things that we're finding of the structure, which is getting very important in the projects, and you will see now quickly. I will show you some examples. The other thing that we find it's becoming really important is the implication of the architect. In the, let's say, conventional projects, the architect was in the office, and you knew how to build. I mean, it most commonly was a concrete structure. We have some catalogs. We know everything's kind of standardized, and you could in some way do it like in an isolated way. Now you need to be implicated from the beginning. You have to ask yourself, where do the materials come from? How much energy embodied is in the material? How are we going to build this? It's not, nothing is common. And in this sense, each project right now is becoming kind of a small research project for us. This, for example, is social housing for IMAP in San Andreu. And this is a master plan was done by Sola Morales, really compact building. I'm not going to explain the plan. It's similar to what the conventional projects I explained before. But the thing is, okay, the building is going to be built. It's being built already. It's under construction with wood. Lower part is concrete. There's going to be a kindergarten, and the top part will be done with wood. As you can see, this idea of structure and space. The structure is defining already the apartments. I mean, it's super clear. And we've already done some buildings with wood, and let's be honest, I guess more or less you all know a little bit about construction with wood. There's some industrialization in building with wood. Everything comes in trucks, really well cut, really well precisely, millimetrically. You build it, it's quick, it's safe, it's clean. But once that's finished, let's be honest, the rest, it's conventional building. It's conventional as when we were building with concrete. So in this project with Cardonet and with a partner called 011H, we're developing a system by components. And this, by components, we have two types of components, two-dimensional components and three-dimensional. What is a component? The component is a wall. It's a CLT wall, it's wood, but it has more things included. And so here, you see one of them, which has the window, but you also have the plaster boards, we have the MAP, so mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So you add elements, and you transport them in two-dimensional, and then just build them on site, no? And then we have the three-dimensional components. In this case, it's the bath pots, they're called. And this is another company that is already, it's amazing what they do. They build these bathrooms, in which we try to implement as many things as possible, or the electrical panels, or the machines, or the heating systems, so that when this thing comes into the apartment, it's kind of a plug-and-play thing. If you go, this is a company called Bultec, which is associated to Porcelanosa. They're from Valencia. We went to see them at the factory, and it's amazing. What they do is much more closer to building a car than traditional construction. It's all robotic. It's all, I mean, tiles are not put by men. They're put by machines. They cut them. It's a machine putting the tiles. And we think that this can, of course, it's quicker, the quality, the optimization of materials is much, much better than conventional buildings. Another building we're doing here in Barcelona, in Poblenou, also for IMAP, it's in Morocco, and it's in a very industrial area. And that was mainly our proposal, to try to preserve this industrial aspect. And we proposed prefabricated modules, three-dimensional, with a partner with Compact Habit. So what we have is like 104 modules, which are built off-site in a factory in Cardona, and they're building the modules separately at the same time. Right now, they are excavating and building the foundations. So this will come and will be built in approximately 3 weeks. From 3 weeks to 4 weeks, everything will be finished. Of course, afterwards, there's some more work to be done, but all the modules will come in 3-4 weeks and will be there. This, of course, needs this implication from part of the architect. You have to work with the company. You have to work with Compact Habit. You can't just decide what you want to do in your office and then pretend that that's going to be done. So in this sense, when doing this kind of projects, it can be frustrating in sometimes, because you lose control of the project, because there's many technical issues, there are economical issues, there's transport issues, which you have to, you have to change your idea of project just to adapt to what the industry can really do and what will fit in the parameters. So that's something, and this part of new ways of doing social housing, this implication with the industry, we find it kind of, for example, the dimension of that window is negotiated. I mean, because of structural means, because of economic means, because of many things. And so it can be tough. It seems like all the discussions you have during the conventional buildings, which is during 1 or 2 years discussing with the constructor, all those discussions, you have them during the design process. so it's earlier. And I hope that during the rest of the construction, all of those discussions will not appear because we already changed or adapted. This is another building under construction. This one is for IBABI, it's in Mallorca, and this, I guess you all know a little bit about IBABI and their radical attitude towards sustainability. In fact, there are 2 buildings, 30 houses and 8 houses. And basically, in this project, what we focused was in something which I think IBABI is really working really well in this direction, which is like recovering traditional ways of building and building with local materials. So a proposal in terms of architecture has much to do with what I explained of the conventional buildings. No? There's elevated corridors understood as streets. There's galleries, entrance galleries, which have this bioclimatic meaning, no? With this double window. And this idea, once again, about structure, no? The repetition of structure, which generates space, which defines the space. The thing here was, how are we going to build this? And if we really want to do it with local materials, the first thing you think of in building in Mallorca, and from Mallorca, is building with local stone, which is marès, no? But we knew that at that moment, and currently, there's a lack of, there's only a few quarries which produce stone, and there's not enough. There's not enough stone for all the buildings which are being done in Mallorca, plus the quality of the stone that comes out. You never know if it's going to be softer or harder, so we could not depend on that variation. So we thought, how can we build something similar in this traditional way of building with massive walls and light slabs, or wooden slabs? And we thought about building with compressed earth blocks. No? Here we call it BTC. But of course, building with this, in Mallorca, there's no industry that does this, except for private people that do it for themselves. So we contacted with, during the competition, we already contacted with Fredéric, which they have their company here in Lleida, here in Catalonia. And we said, okay, we want to build with your compressed earth blocks, but we don't want them to be brought from Catalonia to Mallorca. We want to produce them in Mallorca, because it's very simple to build to produce these blocks. At the end, it's earth, lime, water, stone, and you only need a very simple, well, not simple, but it's very common hydraulic press, which has some vibration. It's a typical machine they use to produce concrete tiles that we use in streets. So what we did during the competition was contact several companies in Mallorca, which have this machine, very simple machine, and we said, okay, do you want to collaborate with these guys from Catalonia? And so we did like a pre-contract that if we won the competition, they would work together to produce this. We won the competition, and currently this factory is working in Mallorca, Paviments Lloseta, and you can buy this material there. Okay, there was kind of with Macari, which is this guy, we decided like the quantity of earth, the type of earth, which is from Mallorca, the type of stone, which relates with the color of the territory and the geological essence of Mallorca. And of course, this means you have to develop new ways of building, new ways of doing, well, not new, I mean, it's recovering the traditional way of building. And how do you build this? You need these auxiliary elements, because these pieces are like 1 meter long and super heavy. So all these things, is this innovation, this we have to do as we have to learn how to build with this. And this is not a this is a competition. We were second. It's also for IBABI in Ibiza, and I want to explain this as an extreme example of this implication of the architect in the process, starting from the beginning. This is in Ibiza, in the center of Ibiza, and once again, the plan is very similar to what we've been seeing: corridors, galleries, central galleries with this bioclimatic idea, and these community spaces, and the walls that define the structure of these rooms, which are equivalent spaces. There's no, we try not to differentiate between a big room and small room, no? And the thing was, how are we going to build this once again? So we analyzed the territory, and Ibiza does not have at all a constructive industry. There's no construction industry. There's no stone, there's no quarries there, except for material like for tiles for the kitchen. There was no company which was interested in producing the compressed earth blocks. There's only some companies that work with concrete, prefabricated concrete, but they only do beams, no? So at the end we said, okay, we have to assume that all of the materials will come from outside. We have to import them from Mallorca, from Barcelona, from Valencia. So if that's the case, we should bring, or we should build with very little material or with very light materials. So we ended up working with cellular concrete, mostly known by a commercial name Itong, and there's also a commercial company here in Spain which is called Ormicel. This is also this is a material, I don't know if you know it, but it's like mostly sand, plus some 70% sand, 16 or 17 cement, 14 lime, as in the earth blocks, and then some dust of aluminium, which when you mix everything, it kind of it increases the volume. Just imagine you're making bread, and it's all full of little bubbles of air, and it's like 7 or 8 times less weight than concrete, for example. It has a really good resistance in compression, and of course this made it possible to build these walls. But then we even saw that, why don't we go to the extreme? No? Why don't we build in a traditional way? And instead of, like in Mallorca, we had to build with an interior wall insulation and an exterior wall, we could build everything with this one material, because it's so good insulation and it's already waterproof that we only had to increase the thickness of this to 45, and we only used one material. It's like building like castles, no, with or cathedrals, no, which was just one material, thick material, stone, no? And of course, if we were going to do that with only one material, we had also to think how we were going to do the horizontal part. This works well in compression, but doesn't work well in flexion. So we had to do this vault. Okay, and so a structure engineer said, yes, it works, but we thought let's do a prototype. So we did a prototype for the competition, and it worked fantastically well. And I think we went a little bit too much too further, and that's why we were second and not first, because I think we went a little bit too much there. But I wanted to explain this example because we found out that you really have to go to the beginning. What materials are we using? Where do they come from? What embodied energy do they have? How can we improve this process of fabrication, and even do these prototypes and think of all of these things that before it was so standardized and so conventional, and you didn't have to think about it. And so in some way, we found out that all of our decisions right now have some implications, and we have to be, and we have just have, no, I'm just finishing, I'm concluding. And we have to be responsible, just to be responsible, and that's the idea that I wanted to explain. You know, we have to be responsible of our decisions and the consequences of our decisions. And that's it. 15 minutes? Perfect.
Thank you, Cristian.
Thanks.
So now we have our 15-20 minutes to have a small talk with the floor and on the panelists, whoever wants to open fire. We've talked of many things, very different things, city level, reflection on reusing buildings, existing buildings, and with an amazing approach to Paris analysis that I wrote, I wanted to ask if it was a correct number, 140,000 units potential you detected in Paris with that analysis you explain us. That's a lot of units, that's a lot of housing. You can solve a problem of housing with 140,000 units.
135.
35,000. Okay, that's not enough. No.
No.
Those 5,000 are not enough. No, seriously, it's an opportunity that relates to planning. I guess I don't know if our planning here in Barcelona would allow that approach to implement without changing the lines. And that was a very challenging thing to explain. We can increase these units and the opportunities of the existing stock of social housing without actually moving any line of planning. That's bonkers. I mean, it's something that we cannot imagine here. And when we start moving one line, as you said, we then end up moving everything and moving all lines and starting over and demolishing, which is one of the things we've been experts doing in INCASÓL. So my question would be, as a first question, if anyone has any, would be, is it the role of public sector, being the last public sector, in these projects, for instance, in Paris, but also in the competitions you explained, is it our role helping to change your approach, as Cristian explained? We have a jump in approach from, I would say, 10 years to now, and Pere Joan, you explained more or less a similar jump in. Is our role helping, or is it limiting change? Is it public sector with competitions, with planning, promoting, helping, giving space to these new ideas? Are we demanding enough, or are we holding back innovation, in a sense? As in Paris, you said, is it the role of public sector helping to this change of opportunity that we're providing, or are we holding you back? Maybe it's a difficult question, I would say.
Political question. Political question.
Du secteur public, est-ce qu'on aide les architectes à penser différemment, ou plutôt on met le frein et on ne vous laisse pas intervenir de notre façon et on est trop conservatif?
I present a study.
You presented the study of Paris.
I present the study to the mayor of Paris and all the owner and social, and they say, "Oh, it's fantastic. Graphically, it's sexy too. How to communicate about that?" And okay, communicate. Okay, go ahead. It's not. No, they don't understand. But I don't speak about you, but very often they are in a way. They find the idea interesting, but how to change the mechanic of that, because we speak about that. Very often they say it's too late for an action which is not engaged, because they decide on the paper that they have to do a demolition or a new road or something, and you can explain it could be more interesting if, but it's too late. Yeah. And we have not the same temporality of the things, and very often we change our mind because the question of ecology, the question of money, the question of new migrant, we have to move all the time in her head, because we have to adapt to many cases of situation, but with always the same point of view. But we change. We have to change all the time, and the difficulty of institute and national institute, and there's too many people to have. You have a consultation. You say, okay, union. You make a reunion. Not today. In 8 days. No, it's Noel, Christmas. No, after that. No, okay, no, it's complex. All the people are good, in fact, but the system are complex, very complex, and they are very strong.
Do you want to pass on the question? Okay.
I had a question for you as well.
For me?
It was fantastic. It was fantastic, the plan of
perish without the proposal. My question is, do you care about the ownership of these buildings? Are they municipality or they are like somebody else, or like in the proposals?
Yeah.
Do you look who the owner is, or you just don't care and you make the proposal and maybe
Yeah.
the president?
It's the same answer, no?
Elle demande si, quand vous avez fait
L'étude.
vous avez fait la recherche si c'est un édifice public ou si c'est un édifice
Non.
privé. Non.
Two. We take all. We take. Yeah, it's interesting. No, at the beginning, we say, okay, we take all the situations which are interesting, a little bit fragile, but we don't care if it's public, private or not. The question is housing. And it's a very good question because the problematic of money for in France, where we can have money for public area and social, but the difficulty very often is private, because private, some have enough money, but some are very short about the question of money, and the maintenance and the evolution of their building is very fragile, and the question is how to pay for that when you don't have money. Public area, very often we can find subsidy, we can find, but private is difficult. It's for this reason we can imagine also that if you have on a short area the capacity to create new, not new dwelling, but new floor, just floor, speak about office or mixed or many things, you can, with the rent of the new, pay the transformation of the other. Well, the complexity of private, it's very often multi-propriété, voilà. And the coherence of multi-propriété is very difficult to synthesize.
Synthesize.
But it's a work about the question of, we speak about the question of the extension of the role of architects. Architects without lawyer, notaire, nana, sometimes it's nothing, because the work, the most important work is to break the rule, move around the rule, change the mentality, nana. Okay.
More questions? Anyone?
Good afternoon. Frederic, I have a first question more about this study case. And you say that you spent 6 years to do this study?
Yes.
And then,
You think it's stupid? Now I think it's stupid. I think that I was very naive because I spent near 450,000 euros. For what? A normal architect buy a house in Normandy or something like that.
Well, actually, now that the second question was right now, all this work that you did, in which situation is right now? I mean, you showed this to the public administrations in Paris or in France, and take care about this, or how
No.
many?
They don't care. No, in fact, that is for this reason I say I'm naive. I speak a lot with Anne and Jean-Philippe, and I associate. Je les ai associés. It's the same job with me for me. But the others say, okay, fantastic, nothing. It's unbelievable because it's very simple to say, okay, we have this situation, we pay attention, what is possible to do? Nothing, a little bit, a lot, okay, we pass another. And there is no obligation to do you can decide, for example, to take the most fragile situation, not a square, a ZAC, zone d'aménagement, not a zone, but a situation, and say, okay, here it's important to do now, and after here. So the planification is very confused, but efficient. But in fact, it's like the project of Tourbois le Prêtre. We do since '95. In fact, we work on near 700 dwellings since '95, and you have with me Pritzker Price. Each year, we built 120,000 housing in France. And in 20 years, we work on 600. That means that it's peanuts. It's very emblematic, but in fact, it's not a lot, it's nothing. But you can imagine it's simple. Okay, you have existing thing, you put, if I am basic, you put balcony, you open window, and it's finished. Why? There is something behind that.
In your opinion, Frederic, what's the main difficulty? That something that looks so evident and so pragmatic, that is full of advantages, why the administration in France, your country, in France, is not following this initial path, no? Because it's economical, no? It's probably, I don't know, what's the excuse they argue not to do it?
We speak about that a little bit. There's many things. There's a stigmatization of this kind of building. So, how to stop the bad quality of this fucking building? We have to demolish. We don't have to speak about that after. That first. After, we have, it's stupid, but we have too much money. If you have less money, you can, it's impossible if you say, okay, demolition, rebuild, oh, no, okay. I don't make demolition and rebuild, I say transformation.
It's not expensive enough. Should be more expensive.
No, because, well, it's stupid, but we are rich. Not very rich, but we are still rich. Mm-hmm. If you have no money, if you go in Africa, it's sometimes you have a decision so intelligent. I remember a guy who has to transport oil. He buy a little tank from, it was near 25 liters. He closed that, he put that on the fire, it was in plastic, and the container was like that, 70 liters. He buy just, okay, we have to find it this way sometime.
So, we're too rich, in a sense, to be creative.
Yeah, in our mind, maybe not at the bank, but
we're not creative because we don't have the means.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not enough. I think it's also a political issue, no? And maybe it's not enough to obtain votes. No? It would give you the political. If you build a new building, it gives you like more. It's easier to sell than this partial renovation.
Yeah,
no?
it's a lot of time too. In the same time, it's easy because you have a new building. If you demolish, everybody is happy. They don't work a lot. Architects do a good job, but
maybe there's more business to be done.
And the lobby of
construction.
Yeah.
The lobby of construction is relevant.
In France.
It is. Not here.
No mafia, no mafia.
Probably it's also the same. I don't know, the same paradox that is in the concept of innovation. Once you have done, it's not new anymore. So, I mean, there is something attractive about doing some of this project initial. The administration feels seduced. Who can deny that something magical? But then once you have one or twice, probably loses some appealing, no? Because I know it. Yeah. Then I think it's something I bring you some discussion about this idea of innovation. This is something that ends with its birth. No? Once you have done, it's not new anymore. So we also should think. I don't know if we want to be new. We want to be something new. I mean, it's also a reflection. No? We have, in my opinion, it's good to innovate, to think always, but we also think about to produce quality, quality, something that can remain more than be new. Something can be new and bad. No? There is nothing opposite being new and bad and awful, but it's new, yes, but it's bad. No? So in new, it doesn't mean good always. The esprit of innovation, I think it's something we have to reinforce, and it's okay, no? Something new, not to get just in the previous step, going further. But the new is also when it's done, then you want for something else, no? It ends with.
It's like the politic election.
Yeah.
You have to change.
With
Every 4 years. Questions?
Well, for you all three, perhaps, for Cristian, perhaps.
Okay.
The young ones.
The younger.
I'm not that young.
But the importance of the agents of the material, see how the materials get old. We are using new materials when they are brand new, they are perfect, clean, white, okay, but years go by, and then what happens, okay? How to clean or not? What's happening with that issue? Okay.
Well, of course, that's something we'll have to find out how these wooden buildings get old. But it seems that, I mean, for what I've seen, it doesn't need that much maintenance. In the case of building with earth blocks, of course, there's something, it's not plaster, and when you touch it, it's different, but that's something you have to assume. But of course, it has zero energy embodied in it. That's the price you have to pay. And some people, I must admit, think that the building is not finished. They think, it's not white, it's not finished. What happened here? The money finished or what? And that happens, it's true. But I guess that's a price you have to take. In the case of earth, for example, lime, cal, every day that passes, it gets more and more stronger. It becomes more as a strong rock. So I have no doubt that this will end up very well. In the case of wood, of course, the wood you can burn it. You could do that. But in many cases, wood at the end you have to cover it with other materials because of fire issues. So that part is more or less solved. It's not the best situation because you want it to be there to regulate humidity and all those things, but it's not the same. It's not a conventional way of building. You have some price to pay, and that's I guess we have to get used to it in some way.
Continue to this. And what about the price of living with one material? Is it cheaper?
It's not cheaper. It's the same price. But of course, we once again, as you saw, I mean, it's very radical, the interior. Many people think it's not finished. It's very rough in some way. And that's because we take out materials. We simplify everything. And so if you're expecting a ceiling with your downlights and all that, forget about it. You can't do that in that way and also have all these standard qualities. So what we do is take out everything which is unnecessary. All the MAP, electrical, plumbing, everything is seen and exterior. And if it's plastic, it's because you can't pay galvanic metal thing, it will be like that. It's a little bit, let's say, trash way of doing it. And that's the only way. That's the only way to put it into price. But it's not cheaper, not at all. No. No, you can fit it in 1,200 euros per square meter, if that's a question. We're in 1,300. 1,300. Yeah, more or less.
But the question that you could ask yourself is, what's the long run of that material? In a sense, its life expectancy. Is it the energy that will go in using that housing maybe compensates. We tend to focus only on the 1,300 today, and we don't watch, well, where is it taking us in 70 years' time, which is our problem. We tend to focus on 70-year time of the cycle of the usage of these buildings. So we should maybe, and that's more, I'm throwing rocks onto my back, analyze not just the cost, but the cost and the expected associated cost in the long run, in order to make economic decisions, like you were explaining it. Well, we're saving money here in implementing this change now. It's not a new building, it's a refurbished building, the structure is old, but maybe these next 50 years we save so much money that when the building is not renewable anymore, we can demolish them in 50 years, 60 years time. And we made a balance economically.
There's no policy about this. I mean, our society thinks when you buy a car, you know the car will last, I don't know, 10 years, 20 years if you are lucky. I don't know. But when you buy an apartment, it's forever.
It should be.
It should be forever, no? But you never think it has a date of end. And I think we should reflect about how durable are things, and knowing and forecasting and previewing what's going to happen. And sometimes maybe it's more efficient to build thinking that every 40 years or 50 years will change and restart again, than not believing that will be from something that will last for the ages and ages. So I think we have know this, and then happens that the buildings get old. Sometimes get old not in the structure, but get old in the in the installations or because the conditions changes. Our demands. I think more than the buildings is the society that changes and ask other things that the buildings were not prepared to. No? Adaptability, installations, isolation, things that doesn't mean that the buildings should be demolished. Is that they were not thought for those changes that the society is demanding now so clearly.
Design, that's a question we made with the team when we discussed things that we would ask today. And one was, should design be thinking with this time framework you explained, like 40, 50 years, and then the cycle starts over? Could design be changed with that in perspective? But imagining a retrofit in 50 years' time, you have to design in that way.
But thinking already has been invented. Habraken, Christopher, the idea of time, infrastructure, houses. That means that sometimes will remain in the same, and then you can change some levels of your design, and some levels will remain, and things can be already designed in this way. Some things will change, some things not. I'm not sure when you say about durable things, are we referring everything, foundations, structure? I'm not sure. Maybe we'll be more intelligent thinking that sometimes have to be changed and actualized, but some things can continue. Yeah. In any case, it's a reflection that administration should have. Before you were asking that if administration was retaining or was promoting, I'm not sure, change, but administration should have. We have several administrations in our country that deal with social housing. So maybe they could have different profiles in the sense that some ones promote some way of renewing. Some will be more conservative, or some will be more radical. No? I think change. I think diversity is also good. I would say diversity is good. Having profile, knowing what do you want is good. Not thinking just in tomorrow or in the next election, but thinking a little bit more farther. We should think in our future, and then thinking in at least in 20, or I mean it's also in 20 years. No.
But I think that as we talked before, we are in a moment of change, and I think the administrations, I think they're all kind of experimenting, different ways of building, different types of housing, and it's not clear which is the the path to follow. And for example, there's like this stupid competition of who's going to do the tallest wooden building or who's going to do and I think what we're trying to do is find the limits, no? And in my personal opinion, I think the future has to be with hybrid situations, like hybrid constructions. No, it's wood with concrete. It's prefabricated, but with conventional. I think you have to find in each situation what you need. But there's not only one way to build. And this idea, for example, right now that everything has to be done with wood, I'm not absolutely. I don't absolutely agree. But it's like a. But we're kind of pushed towards there. I mean, or you do that, or you're not going to win the competition. And it's a little bit... Huh? It's just impossible. And especially in Spain, that we don't produce that much wood. But it's like, we're going, everybody's going there. Like, we should stop and think, okay, when it's okay, or can we combine different techniques, or use it just in some specific points or moments?
I think we have one more question.
Yes. I want to ask you, three of you, about the flexibility of spaces, because changing the way of life is like changing very faster, and so I think that's the kind of progress. I know that there are social housing, but if you, in these kind of projects, you think about using these spaces in different ways.
I think it's one of the questions more, this is really so sustainable, that the spaces can be used in more than one way. In fact, it's the reason that, for instance, that our ensanche is still being used in such a different ways. That can be an office, can be divided in two, divided in four, and they have, because the pieces they have enough measure to be a dining room, to be a bedroom, or to be whatever you can imagine. So I think to design, especially housing, in such a specific way that cannot be nothing else than a single bedroom with a window in this place, I think it makes no sense, because things will change, and the families changes, and then you live one people, you live two, three, two again, one, whatever. So, and then you get old, and then you have whatever. So the conditions change, and so houses should be enough flexible. Flexible is a word. It's a flexible word. Reversible, yeah. But in any case, the housing should be capacity to adapt to the demanding of people, not only in the form, but in the atmosphere and in the conditions to get in touch with your ambience, so you can protect from the sun, ventilate, be comfortable. Probably comfortable, it's a word today we haven't talked a lot, but the comfort is something, no? And it's different for each people, so we can feel comfortable with different things. But you have the right to protect from the outside, to be exposed gradually at the limit you feel comfortable. You don't have to be obliged to be friendly with your neighbors, but you can choose if you want to talk with your neighbors, but you don't have to be obliged to be continuously. I don't feel like talking with my neighbors more. No, you can. It's your choice. Huh?
Because you are old.
Okay, I think, is there anyone who has a question left tonight? No? So we can call it a day and say thank you very much to all you three. An honor and a pleasure sit with you here. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.